Duperas y Duperas. Today on Dupe by the River, it's a special edition of Dupe by the River. We're not just looking at the Union. We're looking at the entire league. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the MLS Season Preview brought to you by Dupe by the River. So don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Dupe by the River. Let's get this started, guys. Done! And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Dupe by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union, brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into this episode, Dupe by the River, ladies and gentlemen, do us a quick solid. Make sure if you guys are watching this live on YouTube, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe for all of your Dupe by the River live showings. And, of course, you can find all these episodes, restream podcasts, Apple, Google, and Spotify. You can find it under PSN Radio, and you can find all of your favorite Philly Sports Network podcasts on there. Thank you so much for everyone tuning on in. Today is a fun one. We're bringing you the MLS Season Preview. And, of course, a quick reminder before I forget, this Friday, ladies and gentlemen, the eve before the kickoff of your season, your boys will be dropping our brand new look. I am so excited for this rebrand that we're bringing you guys. It's not going to be like Chicago. It is not going to be like Columbia. This is going to be fresh. You guys are going to like it. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, it's Justin's face.
Yeah,
it's just Justin's face.
You guys, it's not going to look as handsome as Justin's face, but I promise you guys, you will definitely like it. But let me introduce to you guys my fellow dupers today. And today, guys, when I introduce you, what I want to know from you guys, look, it's the start of another young season. You guys know how much I love freaking league, and it is growing year by year. So what I'm going to ask you guys, let me know what is the one storyline you are most looking forward to that's not Union related. All right, guys, keep it MLS. So let's start off with today. My man, Mr. Drip today. Look at Zach Lobasso. Look at this kick, guys. This is what we're talking about here. But besides that, Zach, how you doing? And what is the storyline you're looking forward to here today? This season?
I'm doing good. I actually have two. One and a half, really. The half is Insigne. Not because he's short, not because he's like,
whoa.
It's because he's coming halfway through the season. That's why. Okay. So Insigne at Toronto and their whole situation. I think Bob Bradley, I have in my predictions him winning Coach of the Year. I think that Toronto is going to really improve. I mean, it's hard to not improve off of what they did last year because they didn't do much. So I think the additions they have will be good. I think Insigne is going to do really well. So he's someone I'm looking out for. And then my other one is actually another Canadian team in Montreal. I'm really interested to see how Mason Toye does this season. And I think Jordy Mihailovic leads the league in assists this year because he's an absolute stud. So those are the two teams that I'm really watching. Jordy Mihailovic, especially going along with Mason Toye. I already know Insigne is going to be a stud, so that's more of a formality.
Canadian soccer really captivating our minds in 2022. It's absolutely wild the times we're living in. But let's also welcome on in my man, Mr. Justin, President, Bald, Goalkeeper, Union, Friedberg. Justin, what's going on, my man? What are you looking forward to this season?
I'm doing pretty good. As I told y'all earlier, getting old sucks, and scrimmaging on a very, very muddy field at Fairmount Park has not agreed with me these past couple of days. So ice and Aleve have been my best friend. But on a non-age related topic, the two storylines that I'm very, very curious about. One is a league-wide thing, and one is an Eastern Conference thing. The league-wide thing, I don't know if y'all saw this in Don Garber's State of the MLS Affair. I'm not referring to the fact that we're expanding to like 60 teams and, it's going to be MLS on MLS. No, that's not what I'm referring to. What it's talking about. The facts that I'm interested in what Don said is that 97% of the league is fully vaccinated, which is actually surprisingly a high result. The thing that I now have a problem with, and this could have been implemented last season, was that fully vaccinated players do not have to go through the same testing unless they're symptomatic. So that would have probably maybe been helpful last year, because if you think about last season, the league's testing policy was a bit antiquated and never got updated. Most of the other leagues updated their policies as the year went on. If you can't tell that I'm a little mad at that, everyone knows we're all mad. The Union should have had at least more of a squad. But anyway, the other
topic for next episode
that I'm interested in, is how fucked are Charlotte going to be? Because when your coach comes out and says we are fucked, there's nothing like, you have to be curious and just go, is it that bad? And the more I've taken a look at some of their preseason games, yeah, it might be that bad. So it's one of those, and I have a cousin's a season ticket holder, I have friends that are season ticket holders. God, it is good when an expansion team sucks. And maybe it's just how bad the Union were early on, but it's a rite of passage. You gotta suck as an expansion side.
We weren't that bad. We were like average, weren't we, in the beginning? Then we made the playoffs second year.
Playoff second year.
First
second
2
year,
years.
but a lot of average mediocrity.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Not everyone can be Atlanta. Not everyone.
Not everyone can be like Atlanta. Yeah. Real quick, just want to say what's up to PJ. Thank you so much. This is the first time he's been at the beginning of the pod, so we really got to give him a quick shout out. What's up right now? PJ, definitely be hyped for the rebrand. It's some pretty clean stuff that we're bringing to you guys. Maybe as clean as the new Union kits, maybe, but you'll have to be the
that's a high bar. That's a high bar.
Of course, PJ wants to know what we're all wearing here today. PJ, I'm boring. I have Flyers game recap after this, so I'm getting prepared with my Flyers t-shirt. But I think Zach's taking the cake.
1998 Venezia.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dude, I have to put an X rating on this podcast here today.
1998 Venezia.
Of course, Justin's got the our Union shouts to our brothers and sisters over there. And Tim, what you got here today?
I'm just rocking a black t-shirt. I'm not gonna lie.
It is clean. At least it's not the usual white tee that we had in the MLS for the 2010s.
You're not wrong.
PJ's excited for Cincinnati because I live in Cincinnati. Really cool to see how the Union could do this year. Absolutely. Tim, of course, last but not least here, Tim, what's going on, man? It's a pleasure to always seeing you, brother. What are you looking forward to this season?
This season, I'll keep it kind of short. But you guys got me thinking about some teams. But my main thing was just seeing more of the East versus West games in the season. I believe every team gets like 8 of them this year, so 4 home, 4 away.
Yeah, buddy.
So gotta love those games that have a little bit of extra, because you don't usually see those teams. And then if I had to pick one team that I'm excited to see, it's Zach got me thinking about Canadian teams. So. And we don't usually ever talk about Vancouver, but I think Vancouver is going to be a pretty good playoff team this year.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think Brian White might have something to say about U.S. domestic goal scorers. He got a hat trick, I believe, in his last preseason game. So, hey, watch out for him. Maybe he comes in and helps the U.S. men's national team. Who knows? We have no idea what's going to happen right now.
He did get hurt at practice today.
Of course.
He did get hurt at practice today.
Zach, what the heck, man?
Never mind.
I'm sorry. I had to listen, Tim. I had to let you know before you doubled down on I want to make sure you know.
I appreciate you.
He did get hurt today. He did get hurt. So
oh man,
that's
I
why
don't know
we
how
got
severe. I don't know how severe. I just know he got hurt. So
that's fair. But that's what I was looking forward to in the West. But now I can just focus back on the East. It's all good.
It is all good, man. Well, hey guys, look. We got a preview show to give to these beautiful ladies and gentlemen out here. So how it's going to work here today, we're going to do both conferences here tonight. We'll start off. We'll start off with the East, because obviously that's the one where everyone's looking forward to. So how it's work? We'll go from the bottom to the top. I'll put out my team who I think will be will finish in that place, and then Tim, Justin, and Zach will tell me whether they agree or disagree, and then we'll have a little bit of banter and a little fun as we always do here on Dupe by the River. So, gentlemen, ready to break down this 2020 season?
Let's get it.
Yes.
Let's go to it.
Let's get this done. All right, so we'll start off with at 14th place in the Eastern Conference. I predict that Charlotte FC finishes here. I just don't know how you cannot pick this team. Gentlemen, do we agree or disagree, and why?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I think looking at it with all of us except Tim, and
I disagree.
Hey.
and I think it's
Cincinnati for the vibes alone is going to win their 4th wooden spoon in a row.
We're here
it's
for
a-
that.
I mean,
Is that a
listen,
record? Would that be a record? Is
It's
it
I
a
would-
record?
They already have the record.
Well, they're getting. It would still be a record then.
Yeah.
All right.
I just think that you look at listen, regardless, those two teams are finishing the bottom 2 in the
Yeah.
conference. I think that's the part we can agree on.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, listen, I think the reason for me that Charlotte is gonna finish the bottom is when a team doesn't have a DP striker signing or a DP signing in general, and you're relying on a lot of MLS retreads and Premier League cast-offs, and just you look at that roster and nothing impresses me. It's I think it's the expansion team. Like I also between their front office instability with their technical director leaving for Columbus, like a lateral move, it made you just look at that team and go like, at least Cincinnati has a GM and a coach.
Yeah,
It doesn't say we're fucked. Like if I'm gonna while trust me, Cincinnati with the wooden spoon again would be the best vibes and to be consistent. Charlotte just screams, "Give me the spoon."
Yeah.
But guys, this is a bit of a concern because look, we're not expecting everyone to come into the league like Atlanta, but I mean, between Miami, Austin, and now Nashville, they're not really starting off with bangs. And you don't really have to, again, you don't have to start off like Atlanta, but some sort of competency is kind of, I think that's what those fan bases would want, right?
I think they wanted to sort of be like Nashville, and with how they were trying to line up some
Great way to build
pretty
it.
good signings and then maybe some DP signings in the summer. That's how Nashville kind of started off. But it doesn't look good right now. Again, we haven't seen them kick a ball yet, so
True.
we'll see. I think if I had to put a number to it, they get one more point than Cincinnati for the vibes. That's where I'm at.
I mean, I think you, Johnny, you talk about competency, and I think that they had 2 years to get this going. I mean, Cincinnati had how many days to
like a half a season, not even
like switch from a USL side to an MLS side. I like you look at Charlotte and go, your owner's got money, so that's not an issue. Your owner's willing to invest money. I mean, despite he might not. At least some owners in the league are like, oh, they don't even know they own a soccer club. It looks like Tepper knows that he owns the Charlotte FC, but I think it's you have a front office and a coaching staff that I say this coaches that come into this league and don't expect to be difficult, expect it to kind of be a cakewalk. It's a rude awakening. And I think taking it not as seriously is a recipe for like Austin. You can say, oh well, they have why am I writing Gio's dad's name?
Claudio Reyna.
Claudio Reyna.
I got it. Sorry, my brain's not working.
Damn, now he's Gio's dad. He's not even Claudio anymore.
Yeah, he's not Claudio Reyna. He's Gio's dad.
Having Claudio Reyna as your GM and Josh Wolf, who I mean was a pretty solid assistant, and I think he started to show. You saw, rumblings of the team that could be better. I mean, they were a little too reliant on Alex Ring, and their striker signing did kind of come on late. So maybe they have, maybe they'll surprise us this year. I mean, I don't predict that, but maybe they'll surprise us. So I think it's you would want to see expansion teams get it right off the bat, but I think realistically, outside of Atlanta and LAFC, most expansion teams don't get it right for at least a couple years.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Well, these guys definitely think that they will finish in last. Well, Tim, I will say I predict Cincinnati to be finishing in 13th, a step above. Now,
That's
I will
fair.
say what I will say between both teams. If you are a Cincinnati fan, I think you feel better than Charlotte because I do think that Cincinnati's future is bright. I mean, look, we've made the joke. They are the Cincinnati Union. They are building it the way we have. So I think if you're a Cincinnati fan, you endure one more year, but I think it's going to get better from here. What do you guys think on as far as Cincy 13th?
Agreed. I think that, like you said, the future's looking much better with the people they brought in. But I don't think this year is going to be much better than what it was last year. Just simply because they just don't have the talent that other teams in the East do. Like, even when we talk about the next two teams, regardless of order that we have them in, like, they are far and away more talented than Cincinnati is. And it's just going to take time to get to the level that they're at.
I guess the other big question is, will Brenner live up to the well, I guess the money, I shouldn't say the
He's got to live
expectation.
up to that price tag.
No,
What was he, 13 million?
It's a lot.
Yep, 13 million.
Yeah.
I just think they got hosed hardcore.
And
Like,
he's
there's
what,
no
21?
sugarcoating
He's
it.
what, 21?
I
Yeah,
believe
he's young
so.
as hell.
Yeah.
Dude, who spends 13 million on a 21-year-old?
I mean,
in the
you see
MLS,
how these
like, no.
Brazilians. Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
In the
Brazilians
MLS.
are
One before
ridiculous
Chris
now.
Albright. That's who.
Yeah, because if Man City buys a Brazilian 20-year-old for 13 million, who cares, right? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't matter one iota. But if an expansion team buys a striker who's 21, unproven, for 13 million, you live and die by him. And if he sucks, you're gonna suck. So it's weird, man. It's weird.
I saw that Real Madrid were looking at a 16-year-old striker who scored 165 goals, 169 games for 40 million, and like I guess that's the kind of going price. But yeah, like you said, this is the MLS, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
And an expansion team. It's not even like a team with some pedigree. It's some team that hasn't even played a game yet, and they're bringing in a guy who they don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep telling people, like, you want to spend money, look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a huge warning sign for what happens when spending money goes unchecked.
Yeah, spending. It's not because I think a lot of people like think that spending money is the problem, and it's not spending lots and lots of money. It's just spending it poorly.
Yeah.
Like, it's spending it in the wrong ways. Like, you could go out and buy a $15 million striker, and he'll bag you 35 goals if he's the right guy. Like, you just have to do your due diligence. And like, I couldn't even imagine if Ernst Tanner was like Atlanta's GM and had the money that they had. Dude, I think they would win MLS Cup every single year. Like, I don't think it would even be a question. Like,
I think Zlatan with LA was a perfect example. I mean,
exactly,
he was bagging goals, but they couldn't stop anyone. And that I make the joke, what did Zlatan do in the MLS? But that team, the way it was built, it wasn't conducive for winning, and that's why they never.
It was conducive for Ibra scoring 32 goals, and
he saw, he conquered, and I say that in air quotes because you conquered what? Scoring a lot of goals for your team.
He didn't even win the Golden Boot, right?
No, Vela won.
That was Vela's
goal.
year. Yeah,
1 goal by Vela beat him by 1, I believe.
I
like,
mean,
you could do all that, but you didn't win jack shit. So,
but also not his fault, because if you score 32 goals, you should expect to win something.
Yeah,
but if you don't
not
have
if
any
your
help,
team doesn't score anything else.
if you don't have any help, that's a problem.
Speaking of spending money and not doing it well, I believe we got to talk about Miami next.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
but real quick,
Sure.
Tim, real quick, I did have one question.
Yeah,
How many points do you, because you predicted Charlotte finishing 13th, how many points do you think separates Charlotte and Cincinnati?
I literally think it's 1 point just for the vibes.
Really,
this is
just 1 point.
banter. I mean, I could see it going either way, and we could most definitely see Charlotte finishing below Cincinnati, but
Okay.
so the reinforcements that Cincy have they're not good. They're not like what Miami or DC
Oh, what about
are doing.
Ray?
Ray is
Ray
great.
Gaddis.
I love Ray. I
Dude,
do.
I think he's gonna get benched midway through the year. That's just my prediction. But we
That's
still
their
love
captain.
you.
He's their captain.
Yeah.
He's got the
probably gonna get-
armband, man.
But to Tim's point, so here's the thing. Now, myself and Zach predicted Miami to finish 12th place, while Tim and Justin predicted DC to finish in 12th place. So we'll start off with Justin and Tim. Why do you guys believe DC will finish in 12th?
I think the honest answer is they just don't have the talent.
Yeah.
I think while Miami might kind of be disorganized, they've started to retool a little bit,
Their
and they've
whole
started,
roster.
yeah, like they've started to kind of get an identity of what they want, and it's not going to be much better than last year. But DC getting rid of Areola is massive. There were reports they were trying to get rid of Ola Kamara. Like, Edison Flores has not stayed healthy, and when he has, he's not looked like the guy that they brought in for a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
Like, you look at that roster and you just go, okay, they've got a decent defense, but where, other than Kamara, where are the goals coming from? You got rid of Paredes. Like, where's the creativity? I don't see much of a defensive spine for this team. And Losada is the Marcelo Bielsa protege. He doesn't care how many goals are given up, and they're gonna concede a lot of goals. I think Miami might not, they might give up a lot, but I think they'll do just enough to not give up as many goals as DC.
Yeah,
and DC has shown nothing. They get a new coach and they have this impressive system. I mean, it just is more of the same. It's a younger Ben Olsen. Like, it's similar results, just flashier because the coach is younger.
Yeah, I think for me, like when you look at DC and their two best players are wingbacks and Julian Gressel and who'd they get? They got from Seattle Brad.
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith.
That's
like
sad.
when their two best players are wingbacks and you don't know who the striker is going to be to kind of put home the chances that the wingbacks are creating, they're not going to be good. And so I have them lower than Miami just based on the fact that Miami's GM used to be Seattle's GM and he helped build Seattle up. And now he's realizing, I need basically a rebuild in Miami in year 2 or 3, whatever it is. And they're going to get the job done to at least get above 12th place. Like that's where I see Miami in 11th. So that's why I had them there.
Did DC retain Andy Nahar? Is he still with DC?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to double check.
He was definitely playing more center back last year.
Yeah, he was one of those, the first center backs that was like allowed to go on those runs up the field, and Losada let him kind of go wherever he wanted.
Yeah, Mike, there is a chance, but there's also like as I like to say, all the potential might be great, but you got to go on past history, and even when he was healthy, he just fell flat, and that was the problem, was him staying on the field.
Right.
If he stays healthy and he can give them, I'm gonna say at least 10 and 10. I think they're trying to get their money, but if he gets lower than that, I think there's just nothing that, like, they don't have any real star power. They don't have any. It's like not a true cohesive unit that, like, you can say like the Union. While they don't have necessarily a superstar, you have a cohesive team. Yeah. Even Montreal, has a cohesive team. Like, certain teams have cohesive units. DC just does not seem like they have a true identity outside of just pressing, which is great if you could score enough goals.
Here's the thing, because I felt like last year they punched above their weight, and there was a good period of the season where they were in a playoff position. I'll throw this to you, Zach. Like, could you see possibly this team overachieving? I hear what Tim and are telling, but it's all happened last year.
Yeah, I don't. And although I have them a spot above Miami, like the bottom four is honestly a toss up. Like it could honestly any of those four teams could finish at the bottom, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Mhm.
Now more than likely it's going to be Cincy or Charlotte, but like you could flip flop DC and Miami, and I'd be like, oh, whatever. Sorry, I got that wrong. Like my bad. But yeah, I just think that like both like all these organizations towards the bottom have some sort of dysfunction, whether it's on the pitch or in the front office or with ownership or something of that sort. And I think that leads to tough finishes. And although DC, Miami, Cincy, Charlotte are going to have their fair share of upsets throughout the year, where they do knock off a team they probably shouldn't or get a point on the road at, I don't know, Philly or NYCFC or something, when they probably shouldn't. I don't think that's conducive to what's actually going on. And I don't think that any of these teams will be anywhere near a playoff spot, besides maybe the first like 2 weeks of the season when everyone's in the playoffs.
Pretty much. All right, so let's move on to 10, 9, and 8. And it's interesting because we kind of have different things throughout these different positions. Now, at 10, now, no banter aside, I do have the New York Red Bulls here. And look, if this is the case, this would be the first time in 6 seasons they missed the playoffs. If that something like that,
I think it's longer than that.
Yeah, it could very well. It could very well be longer than that. But when I look at the Red Bull, it's just I feel like there's other teams that did a little bit more, and I know they stick with their Red Bull way, but that's just kind of where I see it. Tim, what do you see here at 10?
At 10, I have a little bit of a shocker, and I have Columbus again out of the playoffs. I know, Lucas Del Rion's not going to have, maybe not another down year. And I think they're getting Artur back, who is like their rock in central midfield. So maybe this kind of looks dumb now that I just said all that. But I just I don't really trust them. And I think last year kind of showed it. Like they won MLS Cup in 2020 in that weird season, when the Union won the Shield as well. So it's like their year after that, like the Union showed after winning the Shield that they can go on a run in CCL and make a run to the Eastern Conference Final, while Columbus didn't make the playoffs last year. So I think while they're retooling and rebuilding, before the season starts, I'm not high on them, which is why I have them at 10.
Okay, all right. Justin, what do you have at 10? It's interesting, Tim.
I have Montreal, and I think the reason why I have Montreal is their defense is still like Wilfred Nancy got them playing better, but they really didn't retool on their back line. They did get Alistair Johnston, but I think that's only going to help so much. Jordy Mihalovic is a pretty damn good player, but I still have questions at striker. Mason Toye, we've seen he is. You think Casper is streaky? Mason Toye is extremely streaky. Again, when you can stay on the field, he's had a number of injury problems over the years, and they just signed now. They signed MLS journeyman Kai Kamara, who I love, and you love to see him back in the league. The man who
I love that sign.
has been on, so many teams. You can count the team, more the teams that he wasn't on.
Is he the Yager of MLS? I have to ask.
I would say so, and I think it's just because people think he's been a locker room problem. It's because when you're that good of a scorer and you're on a bad team, good teams are going to want you to help boost your playoff runs.
Yeah.
That's why he's been at many places but he is also 37, 38 years old. If you were relying on him and a striker, Mason Toye, who can't stay healthy, Montreal definitely punched above their weight last year, and they just missed the playoffs.
Yeah,
5 points. They were 5 points away from finishing fourth.
Yeah,
but I think you saw from 4th to 8th.
I think it was 10. Yeah, 4th to 10th was very close.
So, but I think this year, I don't think I've seen enough from them to say that they're going to do any better. So that's kind of why I have them It might be. It's always tight towards the playoff line, and I think they just miss out.
Yeah. Zach, something tells me you agree with me at 10.
I do. Yes, I also have the Red Bulls at 10. I think that like everyone's been saying that they have a decent squad, right? But I think the East is just so strong. Like 1 through 10, like we were saying last year, it's so strong. Like maybe the top 3 are kind of in a league of their own. Maybe top 4, depending on who you have up there. But I think that when you get down to the middle numbers, like anything can happen, right? And the Red Bulls could very well finish 7th or 6th. But I think that the talent that the teams that I have at 7 and 6 have or are bringing in the summer outweigh what New York has right now. Now, this could all change. Because I honestly think the summer window for MLS this year is going to be like the biggest summer window of all time. Yeah. I think a lot of teams are going to bring in some big names and some high money players. You got a lot of your
World Cup roster thing. I think it's going to be players making the World Cup, but already making the team. That's going to be a huge window.
Yeah, you got a lot of and the thing is like European season ends. That's where a lot of Europeans move on. You got a lot of European guys who are out of contract who can come over for free, right? Which is huge.
For free.
So yeah, I think this could all blow up like I just said, but as of right now, I think that the Red Bulls are gonna be in that right on the bubble kind of spot.
Okay. So we move on to 9, and again, Zach and I agree. I got Chicago, and this is obviously gonna be a very interesting team. I'm sure Zach's gonna be watching this team very diligently this season. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have fun watching Shaqiri and Casper play together. But
just Shaqiri.
I do think a lot of goals this year. They have a nice young goalkeeper too, which kind of sucks too. But Zach, why do you see this Chicago team? I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about the Chicago Fire here.
So I think they've definitely improved on the attacking end. They're bringing Shaqiri and they're bringing on that winger from Atlas.
Yeah. Oh, it's right. I forgot about that.
Who's like 21.
Late one.
He's like a 21-year-old or whatever. So they're definitely improving the front line. And I've been saying this all off season. Like instead of losing 4-0, they're going to lose like 4-3 now. But I think Shaqiri's going to end up getting super frustrated playing with Casper because Casper missed sitters. Like we know, he misses lots of sitters. And Shaqiri's going to create a lot of good chances. I wouldn't be surprised if at a certain point, like Shaqiri ends up like moving into that striker role if Casper does get on one of those like very, very 2-month-long cold streaks. But it's going to be interesting because I think all of their games are just going to be super high scoring and very entertaining. But I don't think it's going to be conducive to a lot of points. In terms of like getting into the playoffs, I think they're gonna draw a lot of games like 3-3. Like I think that's gonna be like a lot of their fixtures this year. They'll probably beat a couple teams like 5-0. They'll probably lose a couple games like 6-2. Like there's a lot of opportunity for goals to be scored. So if you're a betting person, bet the over in all their games. Bet the over because it's gonna be like 2.5, 3 goals, and you want the over.
Now hear me out, Zach. Now hear me out. Now Shaqiri is someone that plays a little bit of fire. You would say, right?
He is awesome. Yes.
Okay, so one of my main issues with Casper is that we called him Casper the friendly striker, obviously because of the friendly ghost.
He does disappear from time to time.
But I felt, but the gist of that is I felt like sometimes he lacked aggressiveness, right? He lacked that go-to, that killer instinct. What if Shaqiri unlocks this killer? He's not the friendly ghost. He's now like a demonic ghost.
I don't think he can unlock it because I don't think it's there. I think if anything, he's going to be like, I don't like playing with this dude. Get him off the field, please. Get him off the field, please. I don't think
like we spent $7.5 million on him. No, we won't.
I really don't think that like whatever Shaqiri says in Chicago now goes. Like if he doesn't like playing with Casper, Casper's not playing.
Okay.
That's kind of how I see it happening. Now, like I still think Casper scores like 10 to 12 goals.
Mhm.
I agree.
Even though I hope he scores less than Glesnes because I want my Union jersey. But I don't think that it comes in like I don't think he's gonna score like a goal every other game for the entire season. You know, like I don't think that's gonna happen. I think he's gonna score, and I put some money on this too. I bet you he like outscores Michael Ura for the first month of the season, and Union fans are up in arms. And then like and then that's it. Like and then Ura just pulls ahead and everything else, you know, works out the way it's supposed to. I think he disappears too much. Like, and I don't think a change of scenery and guaranteed money is going to change like how he plays as a player. You know what I mean? Like it's not, and he's not going to get more chances than he did with the Union. Like I think he genuinely could have scored like 24 goals last season.
It looks like Mike agrees with your sentiment here too, Zach.
Yeah, I think like 24 goals would have been like a reasonable season for Casper considering how many chances he had. But he just misses a decent amount of them, and it's just not going to add up to a playoff spot, in my opinion.
All right, Justin, what do you got at number 9 here?
I got the Red Bull, and I think like I said, I have them missing the playoffs. When you look at that team, they did bring back Cornell, but you got a defensive line that you lost Gutman, you lost Duncan, you have Reyes, who I believe is actually hurt for a while. Aaron Long is coming back from injury.
Yeah.
Like you have a number of guys coming back, but your offense is what? Kamala, if he can hit the brides out of a barn, and Lewis Morgan. Like I understand, that's a good move, but this team is like I understand, playing youth, but like teams like the Union you have to balance veteran presence with youth, and the Red Bull are insanely young. And I just think that while that youth, like Red Bull has those spurts, and I like Mike's right. They typically will figure it out just barely. I think this is the year where they fall just short.
It took them the last day this past season, right?
Yeah, and remember that we thought Matt was joking when he said back in July, he goes, "We're going to make the playoffs. We just got to take it one game at a time." And next thing you know, I'm texting him in September going, "Holy shit, you guys are actually going to do it."
They needed a mid-season freak out by the fan base, and then they'll turn it around. So that'll probably happen again this year. Tim, who do you got here?
Or another Thierry Henry-esque signing in the summer.
There you go. I mean, speaking of Thierry Henry as an ex-coach of Montreal, that's why I have at 9th. I have Montreal falling again out of the playoffs. And I think we already said this, but like the teams that are going to finish between like 7 and 10, like it could literally be they could be on the same amount of points, but someone has a better goal differential. Like that's how close this could be. And that's sort of why I see Montreal below the playoff line again this year. They're not bad, but they just don't seem to have what it takes to just get over that line. Maybe Wilfred Nancy can get the most out of his players. I mean, they're in CCL right now. They lost the first leg of I forget who they're playing a Mexican side. I forget who
Santos. Is it Santos Lagunas?
Yes, it was. But yeah, so I mean, they lost that first leg, so they might not have to worry about Champions League if they can't win the away leg now. Or maybe it's home. I can't remember. I haven't paid attention to CCL this year.
Who cares? The Union aren't in. It doesn't matter.
I think it's away. I think it was away.
But they're just outside, like a lot of these teams, or they could finish on the same amount of points as the team that I see finishing 7th, but they haven't scored enough goals, like I said. So I think that could be a problem too with Mason Toye being in and out, and I hope he stays in because he scores goals when he's in. So I hope
my dude, he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, man. Well, Tim, I think that Montreal actually finishes in 8th, and I really want to see him in the playoffs. I love Wilfred Nancy. I love like that kind of underdog mentality those guys have. But this Eastern Conference is pretty stacked. It kind of reminds me of the NBA Eastern Conference of how like close it is and how tight knit. Like you said, like between 10 and 7, you could literally see any of these teams in the playoffs. But I just don't think they have enough firepower. Tim, what do you got here at 8?
At 8, I have the New York Red Bulls, and I have them falling just short, even though what we've been saying the last few times we've brought this team up here in the preview, like they usually have it just figured out where they can, sneak into the playoffs as the last seed, at least the last few years. I see them falling short this year, just barely. And yeah, like it's just it's their time to finally fall out of the playoffs. We were talking about their streak. I have to look that up. I can't remember how long it's been, but it's been quite a long time since they have not been in the playoffs. And not that I want them to get better, but I think for the team itself, if they don't make the playoffs, like the Red Bull organization might have to actually give a shit about them again. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's a good one, Tim.
If that's how it has to happen for them, then they're gonna fall short just by a little bit, and it just makes it more fun when they're better. It's more fun, I think. So
yeah, it's better for the league for sure. I agree.
Yeah, so I think they finish 8.
Oh, no, I'm fine having them be shit.
Yeah,
fuck the league. I don't care if it's good for the league.
That's fair.
They suck.
Mike,
they suck.
Mike Thomas with a great point. East is still good, and that's with Nashville going to the West.
No,
man.
It's just bonkers. It's bonkers.
No, because I was talking with someone on Twitter about this today and yesterday. Like the East has won 4 of the last 5 Shields and 4 of the last 5 MLS Cups.
Yeah.
And the only double in that time was Toronto in 2017, who won the Shield and the Cup. The East is loaded, man. Loaded.
Yeah.
Number 1 farm team in the MLS is the Garden State. We like that. We like that. All right, Justin, who do you got here at 8?
I got Chicago. And it was kind of a toss-up between Chicago and Columbus as to who would be on what side of the playoff line. I think the difference between Chicago and Columbus, one team has a defense and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
Looking at Chicago, where the hell is their defense going to be? Because Shaqiri could put up 20 goals.
And 10 assists. And 10, like he could genuinely do 20 and 10.
Yeah, but the team's going to could leak double that. It just you think you look at Chicago and they have all these offensive signings, and they have a solid young goalie who's attracting a ton of European attention. He's gotten call-ups to the national team. He's starting to get looks.
Yeah,
but he's going to be picking the ball out of the back of the net a lot. And I think Columbus. We talk about Columbus. Columbus is a team that Caleb Porter. If you look at the years where he's missed the playoffs, he comes back the next year, it does well. Now, I don't know how well, but I think that's well enough to make the playoffs because, again, we talked about it. 7 through 10 is going to be tight. It might come down to goal differential. And if Chicago has, minus 15 worse than Columbus and they're on the same amount of points, Columbus is making the playoffs and Chicago's not. So I think Chicago gets a little better this year, but I think they still miss out.
Okay. Zach, what do you got here at 8?
I have Columbus. I think they do just miss out. And I think it's just going to come down to goal difference. I don't think Zellerant's going to be what he as average as he was last year, but I don't think he's going to be as great as he was 2 years ago either. I think he's going to fall somewhere in the middle of that. And I just think other than him, they really lack another guy who's got that it factor in the front line who's going to help them score. I know they got CJ's with Nashville.
They got Miguel Berry.
Yeah.
Zardes.
Zardes. Yeah. They all wear yellow. I always get confused with the yellow teams. But yeah, so Yeah, I think that they just lack. Like, I don't rate Gassie's artist very highly. I mean, he's a good MLS striker, but that's about it. I just think they're gonna lack enough scoring to get them to where they want to be. And I think they just fall short.
Okay. All right. So at numbers at start. So now we're in the playoffs, right? So now we have our top 7 here. And that last seed, I have Toronto. I just think that with obviously the firepower they've added in this offseason, you add that with Bob Bradley, the pedigree that he brings to the north of the border. I don't see them missing the playoffs here. Zach, let's start off with Zach here. What do you got here at 7?
I have Orlando at 7.
Wow.
I think Orlando, is a good team. I know they lose Nani, but I mean they get Eric Ankara, who, from what I've seen of him, is a stud. I think he's going to be really good for them. I think he's going to score a ton of goals down there. They have a good goalkeeper, not as good as Andre Blake, but he's good. Their back line is decent. I think they're building something good down there. When you have I think that when you have a group of guys who has kind of begun to gel a little bit, it really does help. And I think that although, like I said, they've lost Nani, who is, when healthy, just a phenomenal player, and does a lot for them, I don't see them not making the playoffs. Like, I feel like they're just too talented of a roster to not get into that top 7.
Okay. What about you, Justin? What do you have here at 7?
As I said, I have Columbus, and I think, like I said, the points are going to be very tight at around the playoff line. But Zelarayan, I think he's going to have an okay year. I don't think he's not going to have as bad as last year, as Zach said. But Giassi Zardes, for all the crap he might get at the national team level in MLS, he's a decent striker.
Yes,
and I think I talked about Miguel Berry was an unknown quantity coming from San Diego and USL, and all the Columbus fans I talked to said that kid, and I saw some games. He was good. When he was given the opportunity, he had some golazos. He had some solid goals.
I'm in the rough here.
And I think the difference between Columbus and Chicago and that playoff line is going to be goal differential. And I just don't think Chicago has enough to keep teams from putting that ball in the back of their net.
Tim, something tells me you're going to surprise me here at 7.
Yeah. I have your Chicago Fire getting into the playoffs, and it's as Mike said, Fabian Herbert's 20 goal scorer. No, I don't think Fabian's going to get 20, but he might put up 7. That wouldn't surprise me with Shaqiri and Casper around him to get 7 for Fabian. No, but I think Chicago is going to be a team that, like Justin said, they're going to have to score goals. So teams that can score a lot will make the playoffs, and I think in a really tight, packed group of 4 teams that's fighting for the playoffs, it's going to come down to a decision day again. And what better way to get into the playoffs than a Casper Shabilko tap in that he didn't mean to put in?
Man.
They might finish with a goal difference of 0, scoring 65 and conceding 65.
That could very well happen.
I would be down with that, but no, I see them just for the way that they've built their attack this year. Maybe they address the defense in the summer. Maybe that's kind of been their plan all along: get their attack going, bring in solid defenders, and see where the thing goes for them.
Okay. All right. Well, at 6, guys, I'm buying the Columbus juice, and I think they will not surprise a lot, but I think they will prove that last year was kind of a fluke. Caleb, like Justin said, doesn't ever miss the playoffs twice in a row. So I think that they will bounce back and make the playoffs here. Now, at 6, you guys kind of agree here, which is very interesting to say the least. But I guess kind of what are we feeling with Toronto? And I'll start with Tim because I know Zach has been waiting to talk about Toronto. We'll start off with Tim here.
Yeah, no, I think sort of like what Zach has been saying about Toronto since Insigne signed with them. Like they're gonna go on an upswing in the summer when he gets there. And before that, it's Bob Bradley laying the foundation. Like I think the beginning of the year is going to be a little rough. Obviously, you got growing pains with the new coach, really kind of building up from a really bad season last year. Bad. And that's why I don't see them finishing higher than 6th. But when everything kind of comes together, I think they're going to be ready come playoff time, and they'll be maybe a team that'll make some noise. That's a lower seed in the playoffs.
Okay. Justin, why do you think that Toronto will finish in 6th?
I think as Tim said, I think the first half of the year it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them, and I say that more in that Bob Bradley, is a consistent coach in MLS, but I think his tactics take time to kind of get implemented, and when in the summer when you have that front three of Pozuelo, Insigne, and Ayo Akinola, I think that's going to be dangerous, and I think mid-season is when they start to make a run, and I think the first half of the season they might struggle a bit, and they're going to be below the playoff line. And then Insigne comes in, and I'm going to say between him, Pozuelo, and Akinola, I see that group getting, I'm going to say 30 to 35 goals combined, and I'll say 20 assists. And I think that's just going to be a lot of, give and goes between Insigne and Pozuelo, and Akinola being the beneficiary of some tap-ins, and I think vice versa. And I think it's going to be, I think they could, they could be feasting on goals, like some teams in the playoff line that might not. Now, how will they do in the playoffs? Again, I think it's always a where do you go? Because sometimes a lower seed can get lucky and just get on a run. I mean, that's what the magic of the playoffs are. How far they go, I don't know, but I definitely don't see them being as bad as last year, which is why I have them making the playoffs.
All right, Zach, this is your time to shine, man. Give it to me. Give that Toronto love.
I mean, pretty simply, it comes down to Bob Bradley and Insigne. I think that Bob Bradley, like the guys have said, is just a top-tier MLS coach. Like, he went into LAFC their first season, took them far. He's just been really, really good in MLS for a long, long time. He has a system that works, and I agree the beginning of the season's probably going to be a little bit rough. I still think by the time Insigne gets there, I think they're in a playoff spot. I think probably hovering around that line, like 8, 7, 6, somewhere around there. But I think Bob Bradley's system is really predicated on having that one centerpiece that kind of does a lot of things well. Like you saw when he was at LAFC, like you had a combination of like Rossi and then the supporting characters up front that, I mean, they all feasted like all year. And once Insigne gets there, they are a team that I would not want to play come playoff time. Like if they are in the playoffs, I do not want to see them because they could hang 4 on you, and their back line's good enough to, keep you from scoring at least 4. They probably keep you from scoring more than 2. So they're a very scary team with the combination of all the talent that they have, and the front 3 is terrifying.
I agree, man. And I will say, as someone watched Napoli, he's pretty good in tournament-like situations. He was really good in Coppa Italia.
And didn't he just break Maradona's record for most goals scored or whatever?
I believe so. He's been there for a minute. For sure. All right, let's move into the 5th seed here now. Justin, Tim, and I have Orlando here at number 5. Justin and Tim, kind of like why do you believe Orlando will finish at 5th? Tim, if you want to start off, that's fine.
Yeah, like I think they're, they did lose Nani, as Zach said. They lost Chris Mueller, they lost DK. But Urson Kara coming in, and oh my gosh, they brought another guy
Facundo
in.
Torres, I think.
Yes, Facundo Torres, who's pretty promising. And they still kind of have that core. I mean, I guess you could say it was a core on defense, but they still have it. And, Gallese is still a top 3 MLS goalkeeper, soon to be top 2 when Matt Turner leaves, unfortunately. But, they're a playoff team. That's why I have them in 5th. If Insigne was here before the summer, I would have Toronto above Orlando for sure. But because of the way that it is, Orlando is going to kind of hold that 5 seed down.
Okay. Justin, anything to add to that?
I think Tim's spot on there. I mean, yeah, you lose, Nani, Chris Mueller, and Daryl DK, but you still have Mauricio Pereira still there. I think with Torres being added, I think the pressure to be the sole creative spark is lifted. And if Urson Kara is as good as we saw, from some highlights and from what I've heard through the preseason, I think, Oscar Pareja is a solid coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a team that isn't going to blow anyone away, but I agree with Tim in that if Insigne was here at the beginning of the season, I think you at least flip that, and I think it's different. But I think Orlando just seems to be consistently like mid playoff table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you could see them anywhere from 5 to 7, realistically. So, I mean, I think the deciding factor really was having Insigne come mid-season was why I had Toronto just a spot lower.
Okay. So the top 4, now Tim, Justin, and I have kind of similar things. Zach went a little different route here. Now I have Atlanta finishing 4. There's a lot of love for Atlanta, and I can understand a little bit of it. But Zach, you have an interesting team here at 4. What do you got here?
I have Montreal.
You're buying that sweet syrup.
Listen, this is the one, like, I feel like in every prediction, you got to have one that is either going to, like, make you look like a genius, or you can say, oh, well, I just kind of did that to look like a genius if it worked. And this is my one. I have believed in Jordi Mihalovic since he came out. He is a absolute stud. He should be getting more calls to the national team. And I think this is the year Mason Toye does stay healthy and scores a boatload of goals. I think it finally happens. And when he's not healthy, Kai Kamara is going to come in and score a bunch of goals too. Yeah. And I think that the system and the kind of culture and system that the coach is kind of putting in is finally going to start really taking shape. And I think defensively they're going to be stronger than they were last year. And like we said, 4 to 10 is really close. So honestly, Montreal could be 3 points out of not making the playoffs at 4. Like that's a definite possibility. And yeah, there's something speaking to me that's saying Montreal is going to be really good this year.
It's like me speaking that French this year.
Yeah, so that's yeah. And that means that I do have New England at 5, and that's because there's just no way New England has brought in just like average MLS players to replace Tajon Buchanan.
Hey, listen, the sexiest man in the league, Sebastian Lletget, is there, all right?
He's got Becky G as his girl. That's crazy.
Listen. I don't think like awesome. They definitely don't put up 70 some odd points again.
Oh God, no.
Ever. And I just think that like after that season that they had, there's just going to be a major drop off, especially with the talent that they've lost. I think one of Buxabo or Heel leaves in the summer. I think that happens. And that means that they're going to be depleted and they're just not going to be as good as last year. But then we can get into the top 3 because that's exciting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, real quick, Tim, what do you see from Atlanta here?
They're a top 4 team. I mean, I know they loaned out Barco, which is actually good for them because he just wasn't the right player for Atlanta. As much as they wanted him to be the guy to be the replacement for Almiron, he wasn't it. And Joseph is back healthy, like actually healthy, like should play the season and look like himself again. So I think they're a top 4 team in the East just because of that.
Tim, you're telling me that stealing your teammates' girlfriends is a problem? I wasn't.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that story, but yeah, no, not great.
Oh, they signed Jack McInerney?
Oh, he went there. Well, Justin, your 4th place team is kind of spicy as well. You got the reigning MLS Cup champs in 4th here, huh?
Yeah, honestly, 2 through 4 for me was kind of a toss-up. But I think the reason I have NYCFC at 4 is twofold. One, I think Tati's gone in the summer.
Mm-hmm. For 1,000%.
I think
he might be gone before then if he ends up going to Argentina or Brazil.
See, no, I think he the rumors that I kept hearing, and it seemed pretty reasonable considering the team. He could go to West Ham, and I think for that that would be a perfect fit for him, and it would give West Ham help
more
besides
goals.
besides Mikel Antonio.
Dude, imagine seeing Tati play in Europa League. That's kind of crazy.
But that's the thing. I think it's one, if Tati leaves in the summer, which I definitely foresee, and 2, I think if Magno, if Santi Rodriguez, if some of these guys don't pick up the pace in terms of scoring, I mean, Maxi Morales is old, man.
Old.
I mean, he's up there. He's not gonna. He's still got that occasional spark, but you saw the difference last year. Tati had 19 goals. Jesus Medina had 9. There was a huge drop off between first and second in terms of scoring, and I think that's where NYC still makes the playoffs, and they still have some decent, and Ronnie Dial is a solid coach, but I think this is where they drop off this year.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing, gentlemen. Now we're in our top 3 in the East. I really believe that between these 3 teams, I think a point's going to separate each one of them. There could be a tiebreaker in there as well. Now, I want you guys to tell us who your top 3 is. I'll start here. I think at 3, it'll be New England, and 2 will be Philadelphia, with 1 being NYCFC. I honestly think I'm putting Philly at 2 because I don't want them to have that number 1 seed. We know what that is like. I know that's me being the crazy Union fan that I am, but I just do not want to see him at the number 1 seed. But I very well could see them there. NYCFC, again, I think they'll take it like a point ahead of Philadelphia, and that's completely fine. And New England is interesting because of what Zach mentioned. They could be selling off players before the season starts. But Tim, we'll start off here. Where do you see the order of these teams here, 1 through 3?
Yeah, I have the exact same order as you. I have New England 3, Philly 2, NYCFC 1. New England, they're going to drop off a little bit from last year, but I don't know if they're going to sell. I mean, I think Buxa is the one that's going to go, and if he goes, they still have Gil and Bo, and then you have Josie Altidore coming up. Like he's there. He's there. So.
Tim, I don't think that did what you wanted it to do.
He's still going to score goals. Like
I don't know, man. I don't know if he is.
I think
just can't play a lot.
Listen, then they'll just play with 1 striker, and it'll
that's what they should do. That's what they should do.
It'll be fine. But I still see them as
they're basically playing with 1 anyway.
Yeah, I still see them as a top 3 team in the East, though. And then sort of like Johnny, Philly number 2, because every good underdog story, even though Philly's not really an underdog anymore, needs a supervillain, and that's NYCFC from last year. So they're gonna find a way to get the 1 seed. But I don't think there's going to be the curse of the 1 seed this year. I have the Union meeting up with NYCFC in the Eastern Conference Final again.
Woo, dude!
We'll have to-
Oh,
If
I
you
can't
want to
wait.
know how I see that one going, go read our predictions article that went out
Please.
this morning. So.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, Philly Sports Network, please check out all the articles up on there. Justin, 1 through 3, give it to me, buddy.
Number one, I got the Union. I think it's gonna be a close race.
That's good.
Yeah,
But
for real, man.
I think the difference this year is, I mean, you're not gonna have a crazy long layoff between the end of the season and the first round of the playoffs because you're not gonna have World Cup qualifying.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be a little different. I think the way that this Union team's lined up and the way the rest of the East is shaken out, I think the Union have just enough consistency to take them to the top of the East this year. I have New England at 2. And like I said, for me, 2 through 4 was a toss-up. And I think the reason that I have New England at 2 is mainly because, I mean, yeah, you're going to lose Matt Turner in the summer. You've lost Tajon Buchanan. I think, as everyone said, you lose probably Buxa in the summer. But the defense, I think, is going to stay pretty similar. The midfield for them has been a pretty consistent unit, especially with Leggett. I think that improves their midfield a little bit. And between Heel and Bo, I think they'll have enough just to still be a top 4 team. I think they're just going to obviously drop off the pace they had last year. And I have Atlanta at 3. And the reason I have Atlanta at 3, and like I said, it's all, like I said, 2 through 4 is a complete toss-up. But I think the reason that they bounce back this year is because you're going to have a healthier Joseph. Now, again, the thing with Atlanta, and it's been apparent the last few years, they are completely reliant on Joseph. Nothing, even with their signings this offseason, nothing has made me think otherwise. And that's kind of why Atlanta, for me, between them and NYCFC, it's why I have Atlanta just finishing above, because I think Atlanta's scoring will be a little bit more balanced, but I still think they're going to be a little more reliant on Joseph, as in past years.
You live by the Joseph, you die by the Joseph, Justin.
Yeah, not a bad guy. It's not a bad guy to have that happen with, but like I would take him in a season if I had to bet on someone.
Awesome. All right, Zach, give us the 1 through 3, man.
All right, so I have NYCFC at 3. Like we talked about, Tati's probably going to be gone. And they're a very good team. But I think Josef gets back to where Josef was a couple years ago, pre-ACL, scores 25 plus goals. And I think the Almeida signing is really, 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 really good for them. I think he can be what Barco wasn't, and really do that Almiron role really, really well. Yeah. And also get into I think Josef could get 25, and then Almeida could get 10 with 14 assists or something like that. I think that's kind of how I see it playing out. And I think just that Atlanta's always exciting. They're always fun to watch. They do a lot of cool stuff. They're very fast paced. I like Atlanta. I've always appreciated Atlanta as a club.
All right,
Then I got the Union. Then I got the Union. Then I got the Union winning the Shield at number 1.
No! I can't have this.
I got him. Hey, listen.
Dude,
okay?
also the 22-day bye week, I can't have.
But that's not gonna happen this year.
It's not gonna happen.
It's gonna
be like a week. It's gonna be like a week.
Well, that's because that was because of the World Cup qualifying. Like I said, it's gonna be a different offseason.
Yeah. So I keep forgetting the World Cup is throwing me off this season. But
so
we'll
I think they win the Shield. I also have them winning the cup, so it's they're doing the double at least, if not the quad, because they can win the quad, dude.
Oh, dude,
they got Leagues Cup,
nervous.
They got Leagues Cup, they got Open Cup, and then they got the Shield and MLS Cup, dude. They're winning it all.
Listen, if they win the quad, Ernst Tanner might be streaking down Seaport Drive.
I'll streak with him.
Tim, I'm gonna hold you to that.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, listen, if that happens, I'll join. Like I said, it'd be Duke by the river, go streaking.
Well, we'll make the local news here on that day.
Yeah. So that's how I see it. That's how I see it playing out. I think the Union are just. I think they have top to bottom best squad in the league.
All right, guys, let's knock out the West Coast real quick.
Yeah,
So what we'll do. So we'll start off here with 11, 12, 13, 14, similar style. Just let us know what you predict here, and just kind of if you think that there's a team that can exceed expectations. So I'll start off with 11, 12, 13, 14. I got San Jose at 11, then Houston, Dallas, and Austin finishing in dead last place. I'm going to show some love to San Jose. I'm going to have some faith in Almeida. Boy, Montero, they could possibly surprise, but in the end, I do think they'll finish there. Tim, what do you think here at 11, 12, 13, 14?
Yeah, 11, 12, and 13. I have the Texas trio of Houston, Austin, and Dallas.
Yikes, dude.
And then in dead last place, I have San Jose. Like you just said, it's Matias Almeida, but it's his last year in San Jose. And while they did, get some more MLS veterans to come in, I don't know if those MLS veterans are going to fit that style very well at all. So I think that's why they finish in last.
It goes to show, man, not everyone can win in this league, man. And
Cade Cowell, baby.
Cade Cowell, he is the real deal, though.
He is a machine, dude. Yeah. He is a machine. I think he had 4 goals and 4 assists in 3 preseason games.
It's just like, how can he keep it going? I don't think.
Yeah, we'll see.
If he's the only scorer, man.
Yeah.
Oh no, but he's got a great attacking midfielder in Jamiro Montero feeding him the ball.
All right, Justin, give us your 11 through 14.
I got the Texas trio. I got Dallas, Houston, and Austin, and I got San Jose finishing in dead last. And I don't even think Almeida finishes the year. I think he's been on the proverbial hot seat every year, and he's rarely made the playoffs. I think every time they get hot, they come crashing down hard because that main marking system, they just don't have the people for it. I think Cade Cowell is going to be their real source of offense. They're going to ask him to fill the gap that Wando, that's a big hole to fill. And I just think they drop off really hard. And the Texas teams just don't.
They all stink.
It's soccer right now. They sell players though. That's a good part, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's Zach, last but not least. I'm sorry. 11.
I mean, I have the Texas trio 14, 13, 12, and then I have San Jose at 11 just because I believe in Cade Cowell. And I want Jamiro to have an OKC. I don't want him finishing in last. Cade Cowell's a stud. I just want him to do well, and I want Jamiro to do well. So, but all the Texas teams stink.
All right, 8, 9, and 10. I'll start off here. I got Vancouver, Minnesota, and RSL. Again, I think between 7 and 8 is going to be close. I think Vancouver just misses out on the playoffs. Zach, what do you see here between 8 and 10? 8 through 10.
I also have Vancouver at 8, and then you and I have 10. And 9 flip-flopped. I have Salt Lake at 9, and I have Minnesota at 10. I think Salt Lake, definitely punched above their weight last year, all the way to the conference championship, to the conference final. And I think that they're going to drop off. And Minnesota's just kind of they have some good things, they have some bad things, and I think that the bad kind of does outweigh the good in that situation. And Vancouver could very well sneak into the playoffs. Like they have a very, very, very decent squad. And I think where the East is like 4 through 10 is very close. I think the West is more like 5 through 8 is going to be really close.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't mention this in the Atlanta part, but losing Ozzie Alonso, I think, is a big loss there as they go.
I have that in our preview article that's soon to come out. Is Ozzie Alonso is a huge hole to fill.
Yeah, man, he's a great veteran guy. Justin, what do you got 8 through 10 here?
Tim and I have similar looking 8 through 10s. Our 9 being the only difference. I have LA Galaxy at 8. I think they just missed out on the playoffs. I think Chicharito has a better year than last year, but that's not saying a lot. And
Did score
I'm just
17 goals last year.
I think. Well, I think he could be about that. I think it's not going to be any better, much worse. But I think Douglas Costa is going to be a utter failure. I think it's just he has not looked good in a long time.
He hasn't looked good since he was at Bayern.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's been a while
It's
since
like 2 years. Yeah.
So I think it's just I just think they're trying to go for that Galacticos thing again, and I think they're missing the mark. Vancouver was tough. I could have flipped them with Colorado at 7, but I think that the reason I have Vancouver just missing the mark is that defense. I mean, like I said, Brian White, I think will be one of the top American goal scorers in the MLS this year. They have that young Scottish midfielder.
Gold. Yeah. Robbie Gold.
Robbie Gold.
Robbie
that
Keane?
kid that kid showed a number
He's the Scottish Messi.
Yeah,
Oh.
he showed a lot of
I thought that was
promise
Billy
last year.
Gilmore.
But I think that's about it. I think they're missing a lot, and I mean I don't know what they got. They're at this point, how many goalies have they either gotten rid of or or they're on their another academy kid. And RSL I have at 10 because missing out on Rusnak is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
I don't think they've replaced it, and I don't. I love Bobby Wood, but
The magic of last year. The magic of last year is gone.
Exactly. Like I think there's a lot that last year was a flash in a pan in terms of getting hot at the right time, but I think Rusnak leaving is just gonna zap the life out of that offense.
All right, Tim, what do you got? 8 through 10.
Yeah, at 10 I have RSL as well. I think, like you guys said, Magic's gone. They fall off. It is what it is. And sort of like what Zach said, like teams like pretty much 5 through 10, it's going to be close in the West. It's just that's what it's going to be. Minnesota I have at 9th. Again, just they're not bad, but they're not good. And the West got better because Nashville came in. So if that's how you're going to miss out on the playoffs, being like maybe a point to 3 points out, like that could easily happen to Minnesota. And then the team I have just missing the playoffs is LA Galaxy. I think they're kind of going to be duking it out with their crosstown rival for most of the year, LAFC. And I think LAFC will just be a tad bit better than Galaxy this year. So that's why I have them.
Okay. All right. Well, so let's move into some playoff spots. We'll go 4 through 7. So at 7, I have the LA Galaxy, 6 SKSC, 5 Portland, and 4. I'm taking a page out of Zach's book. I'm going a little bold here. I'm going with LAFC at 4. I do understand that maybe they might concede a lot of goals this season, but I just like Acosta with Bella. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Portland, I think they're going to miss Valetti. SKC, that really sucks Pulido, but Vermees will find a way to get this team going again and make the playoffs. In the Galaxy, I think they will have just enough to make it here. We'll start off with Tim here. What do you got 4 through 7?
Yeah, 4 through 7. I will start at 7th place. I just said LAFC. I think they're going to find a way. I know Cherundolo, worked under Bob Bradley. So now he's taken over and he's going to bring, because he was coaching their second team. I forget where they play.
Las Vegas Lights.
The Las Vegas. Okay. Yeah. So he was their coach. I think he's going to bring up some of those guys, and they did some, pretty good MLS trades to get themselves better equipped to make the playoffs, I would say. 6, I have Vancouver, and we talked about it at the beginning of this pod. I really like what Vancouver did at the end of last year. And I think even though they lost their goalkeeper to LAFC, that they're still going to be, a pretty decent team. And Vanni Sartini has them, playing really well and hitting tables after after games and stuff like that. Gets them all hyped up. So I think they get 6th. SKC falls out of the top 4 for the first time in a while. Like Johnny said, Alan Pulido being out again for this whole year sucks because they actually spent money on a DP forward and they haven't had him for pretty much these last 2 years. But yeah, they're still going to make the playoffs because it's Kansas City and they do. And yeah, are we talking 4th place now too? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
Or,
4th through 7 here.
Okay, yeah, 4th. I have Portland because they're just still a really good team even without Diego Valeri because I mean they were good really without Valeri last year.
Yeah.
Because they had Valeri as a super sub pretty much, looking like Elsinho out there. But yeah, they'll make the playoffs and they'll get a home game.
Okay. All right, Justin, what do you got? 4 through 7.
7, I got Colorado, and as I said earlier, I could have tossed them with Vancouver, but I think Robin Fraser is a very good coach. I think last year, very quietly, they snuck up the first.
Yeah.
Some of their parts is better than any of the individual parts. I think despite losing Acosta, you still have Jack Price and Mark Anthony in that midfield. Diego Rubio has quietly had a decent tenure in Colorado. They still got Barrios, who even at his age is still pretty solid. You lose Cole Bassett and Sam Vines, but you still have Shinyashiki. And I think they do enough just to kind of sneak in. I have LAFC at 6. I think they do rebound this year. I still think they're kind of relying on Carlos Vela. I think he'll get back to form. I think if he stays healthy, I think they might be a force to reckon with in the playoffs. 5 with KC. Yeah, the Polito news is a huge bummer, but and losing Ilie to LAFC is a big one. But I think having Tim Melia is a top 5 goalie in the league. Johnny Russell is going to be a club legend there. And Casey for me as a coach, I have a hard time pulling them out of the top 5.
Yeah.
At 4, here's where my kind of
this is your Montreal.
This is my Montreal, and I have Minnesota. And so the reason for me that it's not as crazy is because, yes, despite losing Ozzy Alonso, they finished 5th last year. So them finishing 4th would not be crazy. And I say that because they go as far, I think, as Manuel Reynoso goes.
Yeah.
I said it in my preview article, and I think it's true. They go as far as he goes. They have signed a couple strikers. Maria they brought back from the 2020 season. He started off pretty good in 2020. He had 2 goals in the first 2 games, and then the pandemic happened, and he got hurt and never really kind of recovered. And I do not know how to pronounce the other forward's name. Very young African striker. I don't know much about him. I know he's a under 22 initiative signing, and they did sign a center back. I think the defense is going to be okay. It's not going to be enough to lock games down, but I think they'll do enough to make the playoffs. Them at 4 might be my Montreal, but it's not crazy to see them still making the playoffs as they kind of stayed status quo.
Okay. All right, Zach, what do you got here? 4 through 7.
I have both LA teams in the playoffs this year. I have LAFC at 7. I have Galaxy at 6. Where Justin believes that Douglas Costa is going to be a bust. I don't think he's going to be a world beater, but I don't think he's going to be a bust either. I think he's going to be 5 goal, 10 assist type of guy. Especially just feeding Chicharito. If you're going to set up tap-ins for anyone, you want it to be Chicharito. Like I said, I think Chicharito wins the Golden Boot this year in my little prediction. I think 17 goals in not many more than that games. I think he played 25 or something like that because he was hurt for a lot of last season. And then LAFC, Carlos Vela is a stud as long as he stays healthy. Like he's gonna score. He's gonna score a bunch of goals. He's only like 31 years old. Like it's not as if he's past it or anything. And I think honestly, I still think both of these teams, like I said, for the East, bring in reinforcements in the summer to kind of put them over the edge because they are two teams to definitely spend money. I have Kansas City at 5. Like Justin said, for me, it's the pedigree of Kansas City. Like they're always going to be. If they're not a playoff team, that would be a shock to me. Like they're always there. They're always good. The system works. Their home field advantage is unbelievable. They just have a lot of good stuff going for them. And then I have Colorado at 4. I could genuinely see Colorado being horrible this year. Like I think there's a world where Colorado stinks and finishes like 9th. But I also think that there's a world where they are in 4th, which is obviously why I put them there. I think losing Acosta is very, very big. I think what he's proven with the national team when he gets opportunities when Tyler Adams isn't there, like he is a very, very good defensive midfielder in a certain system. And I think that they're going to miss him a lot. So I don't think they finish 1 again. And I think they drop a little bit, but like I said, I think I could see them dropping like a lot if things don't go their way.
It's good points. Very good points. Now, as we move through 1 through 3, not too much surprises here. For myself, I have Seattle finishing in 1st with Nashville in 2nd and Colorado in 3. I think, to me, Seattle, Nashville are going to crash course for the Western Conference Finals, if I'm being honest with you guys. But let's start off, Zach, what do you see 1 through 3?
I have Nashville 1, Portland 2, Seattle 3. Spoiler, I do have Seattle in the final of MLS Cup. So I think, although Nashville is a phenomenal team, I think they win the West. I think they're like just defensively in the way they grind out games is going to be very, very hard for teams to deal with. I think Hani Mukhtar has another great season. And I've heard on Twitter the travel for Nashville is going to be tough, and yeah, probably, but the travel's tough for everyone. And I just think Nashville is such a phenomenally run organization that they're just going to be totally fine. And I think I don't think they walk away with the West by any means. Like the top of the West is good. Seattle and Portland are both very good teams. That's why I have them at 2 and 3. I think Portland obviously in MLS Cup last year, I think that they do have some deficiencies. Like Blanco being healthy is a big, big, big thing. Like he's got to stay healthy. But Williamson coming back is huge for them. Huge. He is such a good player. I actually know a couple guys from when I was in college who played with him when they were younger. And they talk the world about him just as a guy and as a player. And I think him being in the building and on the pitch every single day is going to be super important for Portland being really good this season. So hopes to him staying healthy. And then Seattle at 3 because they're Seattle. There's really not much to say about Seattle because they're probably the best run organization in the MLS. Yeah. They always are in that top 3, top 4 situation. Even last year when they were struggling with a game where they had to play 4 15-year-olds or something like that. Yeah. They won. They beat out. I granted it was Austin, but they went to Austin and they beat Austin with a bunch of 15-year-olds. So I see no reason why Rui Diaz isn't competing for the Golden Boot again. And yeah, Seattle's just phenomenal, and I think that they're going to be really good and go to the MLS Cup this year.
All right, Justin, what do you got 1 through 3?
I got Portland at 3. I think, they were pounding kicks away from winning MLS Cup. I think Sebastian Blanco is him being healthy, as Zach says, is gonna be key. But I think Portland is a team that they're just around every year. Them in Seattle, and it's kind of why I could have flip-flopped either way.
Yeah,
but they're both around. But the difference I think I had with Seattle was, for me, Albert Rusnak, and I talked about why RSL was going to suck without him.
Yeah.
Seattle with him is going to be crucial. Now, I think he'll have to pick up the slack depending on if Nico Lodero can stay healthy, whether Jordan Morris, how he's coming off a second ACL injury, whether they're going to have any help for Rui Diaz. But the defense is always solid. Stephen Fry is, again, it's a top 5 goalie in the league. So it's tough to argue them outside the top 3. And I have Nashville at 1. I do have them going to the MLS Cup final, but I do think the Western Conference final will be them in Seattle. And I could see either team making it out of the West. I think Mukhtar actually does have a down year. I just think regression-wise, it just makes sense. I just think it's going to be tough to duplicate those efforts. But I think, as I say, that defense is always crucial for that team. That defense is what got them to where they were in the playoffs in the regular season last year. I mean, I think I had them at 1 just because I think the West is definitely a lot more wide open than the East this year. But I also think it's going to come down to the goal difference.
Yeah.
I think for them, I don't know how many goals they'll put in, just because unless Ake Loba really takes off, like I've heard reports in the preseason that he could be the DP striker signing that they've needed, but who knows? So I think I'm just kind of going on a leap of faith based on last year that they'll finish
All right.
1.
All right, Tim. Last but not least, 1 through 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start at 3. I have Nashville there, sort of for some of the reasons you guys are saying. Like, this is a team, jumping conferences, but they're still very sound defensively. They're gonna draw. They're gonna grind out wins and get a lot of draws. And I think the only teams that they'll really struggle against is going to be Portland, Colorado, or Seattle. And I have Colorado finishing second and Seattle first. So I mean, I think that Nashville is still going to have a lot to say in the West, even if they finish third. I have Colorado finishing second, even though they lost Kellen Acosta. I think they're still going to be very organized, and Robin Fraser is going to show again why he should be one of the Coach of the Year candidates. I think he'll be up there again this season, and that they fall from 1, but they're still going to be in that second place. And then Seattle finishes first because they were already a very, very, very good team in the West, and they got out of the snack. It's just like it's ridiculous the way that they're able to pull off free agency now, and the way they've been able to sign players and everything like that. So Seattle, I don't have them going to MLS Cup. I have them losing in the Western Conference Final to Nashville, but it's another good year for Seattle. I think they win the Shield.
It could very well be like that. It's a pretty stacked team. But look, I think one thing we can all agree, this season is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm so excited to talk about it every single week with you 3 fine gentlemen. Guys, tomorrow night, stay tuned. This is the 2-for-1 deal. Tomorrow night, we will actually preview. We'll preview the Union. We'll go in depth with the Union, but we'll also preview our first match, guys. A first match preview. We'll be looking ahead at the Minnesota match this upcoming Saturday for the Philadelphia. So make sure you guys stay tuned. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode of Dupe by the River. Thank you for hanging out with us for the special edition, the MLS preview show here today. Hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys think we're not that crazy. All right? We're not that crazy. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to Ed Barcelo Phil's YouTube channel. We always broadcast these live through here, and of course, make sure you guys subscribe to PSN Radio. We rebroadcast all of these lives onto there, so you guys can check it out in podcast form. You can find it wherever you stream podcasts, from Apple, Google, Spotify. Look for it under PSN Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Zach Lobasso. That is Justin President Bald, goalkeeper Union Friedberg. That is Tim Lovinguth. Of course, I am Ed Barcelo Philly, and we're telling you guys to Dupe on. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night.